Hello and welcome to Cyber Life. My name is Ken Underhill, your host. In today's episode, we have a special guest, Dr. Mansur Hasib. Dr. Hasib is a multi-award winning cybersecurity expert. He also built a $100 million program at the university level, and he's the best-selling author of these two books. Hello and welcome back to Cyber Life. My name is Ken Underhill, your host. In today's episode, I mentioned we have a special guest, Dr. Mansur Hasib. Dr. Hasib, you've worked a number of years at the leadership level of cybersecurity. So what advice do you have for cybersecurity leaders out there?
First of all, senior leaders need to get engaged in the field of cybersecurity because too many people don't understand that cybersecurity is the way to drive the mission of their organization. So they kind of ignore it and they're not engaged. They think it's a technology issue. But in the meantime, their governance and their innovation and all of that suffers. But that is the key thing. People need to understand that digital strategy is the business strategy today. And that is the translation and the leap that people need to be making today, because there is no organization out there today that can do without a digital strategy. So I see cybersecurity strategy, digital strategy, business strategy as the exact same thing. And this is the transition that senior leaders need to make today.
Hello and welcome back to Cyber Life. My name is Ken Underhill, your host. Before the break, Dr. Hasib shared some information about what senior leaders need to keep in mind around cybersecurity. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the program that Dr. Hasib built out. So, Dr. Hasib, what kinds of challenges did you experience building out that university program?
The biggest challenge that I had was trying to make it relevant to the business, because one of the problems with academia is that in academia, they're used to testing knowledge. There's a whole bunch of quizzes and all kinds of things, automated testing, automated student assessment. But you see, that doesn't do anything. We really don't want to know what they know. We want to know what students can do. And we need them to be able to do real world projects. So converting that to that and getting everybody to accept that, it was a major overhaul. So that was the first thing. Second thing was I was changing from textbooks to open educational resources, which is really the modern way to do education anyway, because most textbooks become obsolete by the time they get there. And then you're kind of stuck with this big, thick, expensive textbook that may or may not be relevant in totality and is very expensive. Whereas open educational resources, they're basically free and they're modular, so you can change little things like, for example, right now, we just updated NIST 853, right? So I can just update that little piece without updating any other things within the curriculum. That is the other. Then I had to train the faculty, because once you move the faculty from one type of teaching to another type of teaching, well, you have to retrain them into this new culture. The other thing that I was doing also was that since we were dealing with an alternative student body, so not the traditional student body, right, where I could have a 24-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 60-year-old, so all kinds of working professionals in the program. So you really have to be able to cater to every one of them individually. And so I wanted to make sure that what we tested was not where they started, but where they ended. For example, to do a project, somebody might need 2 attempts. Somebody might need 3 attempts. But that's okay. I don't think there should be any problem. I also wanted to make sure that the assessment criteria was not subjective. I wanted the assessment criteria to be objective. What does that mean? That basically means that you can't just say, hey, this is terrible or this is bad. No, you must say, okay, you were supposed to compare between DES and triple DES, and you didn't do that part. That was one of the requirements of this particular project. Or you were supposed to give me a comparison, but you just gave me definitions. So in other words, the feedback needs to be actionable. And that is the other change that I had to make. So lots of cultural changes I had to make, which is what basically ended up making the program an award-winning program because at the time that I did it, it was the first of its kind in the world. And I was telling my graduates and students that I said, you are going through what I believe is the world's best program. So just focus on your studies, graduate, and you will be superstars. So that was the key. I was really changing the whole mold of graduate education.
So, kind of along those same lines, Dr. Hasib, how can universities out there make sure that their programs are meeting the needs of both students and employers?
Essentially, what they really need to do is make it relevant. We really need to have competency based education, knowledge testing, this quizzing, and all that. This needs to go. What we need to have are real world projects, smaller scale versions, and competency based. In other words, we need to be able to get the student ready to go to work day one. So, a lot of relevance. Some of the capstones and things like that could be tied to companies where they actually go and work at a company and do the project. Sometimes it could be paid by the company, so it could be a paid internship or things like that. So I think we need to do a lot more of that. We need to rethink education quite a bit. And as I was saying, education also needs to cater to individuals, because right now we're catering to an average, and a lot of people are getting lost because they may be allowed to test only one time, and since we're teaching to an average, well, they may need a little bit more extra coaching and feedback and all that, and they're not getting that. Some people, particularly in a field like ours, they might need some remedial work before they can succeed in a particular program. Well, we need to be willing to do that. Those were all things that I was willing to do, and I think that's what education needs to do. They need to rethink, because right now, unfortunately, too many students are graduating from many programs without really being able to do things. The other thing that they're also neglecting are presentation skills, teamwork skills, writing skills, and analytical skills, problem solving skills. So they may know technology, but they may not really know how to solve a particular problem or write a report or make an executive level presentation. Well, these are all skills that have to be there. And in my program, they were all there.
Hello and welcome back to Cyber Life. My name is Ken Underhill, your host. Dr. Hasib, I wanted to ask you, what do you think that the future of cybersecurity education is?
So the future of cybersecurity education, if I had to do it, then it would literally replace the MBA programs, because in my opinion, the MBA programs today are obsolete. They were built for a assembly line kind of an organization. And over there in the MBA programs, a student is taught that people are expenses. And so in the accounting system, they're reflected as the biggest expense that a company has. Well, in a knowledge economy, people are not expenses, because every human being actually produces far more than we ever pay them. That's where the profits of any company comes from. So this reality has to be recognized. And I feel that the cybersecurity, where, for example, in my program, we had business elements, we had those presentation elements, we had risk management elements. So we had all of the things that the modern organization needs to be able to do to run that organization. Now, yeah, I didn't have finance and accounting, but hey, I can always hire an accountant or a finance person. We don't need to be running companies using those kinds of people, because it's not about finance. It's not about just doing an Excel spreadsheet, being able to run a company. That's part of the problem today. In a knowledge economy, we have to understand that there is so much value in a human brain, and every employee represents a lot of money because of what they know, and they become more valuable over time. So this whole layoff culture has to go. And so these are things I feel like the cybersecurity curriculum will become more and more business oriented, more analytical. At least that's the kind of program that I had. And that's what I told my graduates, that don't stop at being a CIO or a CISO. You will be a better CEO than many of the CEOs today because of what we are teaching you in terms of digital strategy. Because once you understand digital strategy, you can do amazing things with your company.
Dr. Hasib, I wanted to ask you a little bit about some tips you have for people around personal branding.
Bring inner greatness out. The key is that each of us have something unique, and we are better than anybody else in the world in that unique thing. And it is a self-discovery process. Part of the problem is that too many of us have been socialized into suppressing our uniqueness, suppressing our special talent, because if we outshine somebody, then society tells us, hey, be humble and calm down and don't do this. And in some cultures, you will hear this concept called the tall poppy syndrome. So, where as soon as somebody rises higher than other people chop them down, which is what society often tends to do. This is where bullying often comes. You will see sometimes the smartest kid is often bullied. But you see, that's part of the problem. We need to let the inner greatness of every human being come out, because here's what happens when you do that. Once you start developing that uniqueness, then the value goes up. Your monetary value in your personal brand starts to grow up. Your packaging, you become so unique that every time you touch a company or associated with a company, the value of that company goes up. This is kind of what happens with, say, baseball superstars or football superstars or basketball superstars, because they are adding, just the name brand itself is adding so much value to that team and all that, that they're able to command that kind of a salary. Well, there's nobody else in the whole world that's exactly like us. So why don't we exploit that uniqueness by building that brand and promoting that brand and bringing out that value? So that is the key lesson, because part of the problem is that the typical worker has lost their ability to negotiate compensation based upon their contribution. They go to a company and they say, hey, this is the salary we offer you. And that's the salary they're offering maybe everybody. Or they're trying to get you at the lowest salary possible, and you don't know how to negotiate. But hey, wait a minute. If you can quantify, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to bring in $117 million a year for you. How about we negotiate on the basis of that? Now you have a different story, because you need to be able to quantify exactly what you're going to be able to do. Now, if you're in control of your personal brand and you're famous and people know you, guess what? Your name brand now has value. And that is what this book is all about. It helps people gain better control of their income so that they can determine their outcome. The key is that I'm telling people, look, you don't have to be perfect, but what you have to do is you have to perfect your uniqueness. You see? And once you do that, then you can be a star in any field. It doesn't matter. And once you're a star in that field, you're gold. Your association with you will enhance the value of a company. And now you're going to be able to command better salaries. You'll have better job security. You will also have multiple sources of income. So this is the other thing. Right now, through technology, we can work for multiple companies. So why should I work for a single company? I mean, that's job insecurity, right? If they lay me off, I don't have a job, I don't have food, I can't eat, I can't feed my family. But if I am selling my services to multiple companies at the same time, now I have multiple streams of income, or I do multiple things. See, every human being can do 10 things. And the question is, how many of these things can I monetize? To give you a very simple example, in the field of education, I'm teaching, right? And I get paid for teaching. Well, do I also do marketing? Do I also do writing of books? Do I also do public speaking? All kinds of things, as you can see, I could do and start to monetize all of those things. Well, as I start to monetize those things, my brand value grows up. I start to develop multiple sources of income, and I have better life, better job security, better everything. No single employer can now exploit me or hold me hostage again on about anything. You see, I'm in better control of my destiny. That is the key essence of this book. And that's why I had to write it. As soon as this pandemic hit, I felt like the urgency of writing this book just became very important, because I was seeing so many people just being laid off left and right. And unfortunately, they never developed a personal brand. They don't understand how to do it, and they don't understand these concepts. So I felt like push it out now. And I feel blessed that I've been able to finish that and push it out. And so far, so good. People seem to be liking it, even though it's been out less than a month now.
That is some great advice. Again, keep in mind that if you build your personal brand, it can really open up a lot of job opportunities as well as other opportunities for you. Dr. Hasib, do you have any final advice or thoughts for the audience?
We are all born unique, and we should capitalize on that. And we should never, ever be shy about expressing and flaunting our uniqueness.
Hello and welcome back to Cyber Life. My name is Ken Underhill, your host. In today's episode, we had Dr. Mansur Hasib. Again, he's a multi-award-winning cybersecurity expert, built out a very massive university program, and a best-selling author. You also should check out his website, where he's got a lot of free resources, and he's very active on LinkedIn. Be sure to follow the Cyber Life on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube at CyberLife TV. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. And be sure to check out cyberlife.tv, where you can find awesome t-shirts like I'm wearing. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.